We're Kyler and Cody McCormick, two brothers on a journey to pave our own path while chasing our passion.
While building our adventure filmmaking brand, The Outbound Life, we become sponsored by some of the top brands in the film and travel industries, acquired Fortune 500 clients, and have spoken on stages all across the country sharing our story.
We now invite you along on our journey as we sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs, creators, and diverse thought leaders to discuss how to live a life we consider outbound, a life where you believe your story matters and live beyond your limits.
Come along and live the outbound life.
Ladies and gentlemen, hope you're having a good day out there. Today we have quite the interesting character. Chris Romrell is somebody we're sitting down with today, and you just have to hear his bio to even believe that this is a real person. So, having been punched in the face, thrown out of windows in some of Hollywood's most prevalent blockbusters in recent years, such as Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Captain Marvel, Creed 2, Jurassic World, the list goes on, Chris Romrell doesn't exactly have the average day job. Chris is a 6'3", full-time life enjoyer who you might know as Star-Lord, Thor, or from being on American Ninja Warrior. Romrell is Chris Pratt's stunt double, and he's the closest thing to his clone who's alive that we're aware of. Chris most recently worked in London as Chris Pratt's stunt double in the upcoming Jurassic World 3, and was kind enough to sit down with us to chat today. Chris, what's going on, man?
What's up, dudes? Good to see you guys again.
Chris, thanks so much. Yeah, so good to see you. It's been some time.
Yeah,
It's
been a lot.
Hey, it is hard to keep up with you. You're always bouncing around new places, and even tracking you down for this podcast. You literally last week just got back from London, right?
Yeah, so I was in London for 7 weeks for Jurassic World 3.
Gee.
Wow. So I feel like we always talk about COVID, and I really don't want to talk about it, but I'm also very curious how Hollywood is handling COVID, and the fact that, I know, oh my gosh, so many movies have been pushed back, release dates, filming, I'm sure is all a wrench been thrown in it. But for you, you're out shooting and still making it happen. Like, how has that affected you?
I'm very lucky to be working, first of all. I count myself lucky. But Jurassic World 3 is one of the first shows to get up and running, during the pandemic.
Wow.
I think most shows, it's very expensive to get up and running. It's very expensive to bow out. Like, the whole movie making process is very expensive. And I think that Jurassic World 3 was probably one of the only shows that was going at the time that had, enough wherewithal to basically pull this together money-wise.
Wow.
And also just planning-wise, because you have all these different unions, that make up the entertainment industry, basically. Like, so I personally belong to SAG-AFTRA, the actors union, right?
Sure.
And they all each came up with their own rules that productions needed to follow if they wanted their support. And so you have to follow those rules. Plus you have the rules of the UK government. Plus you have the production rules from Universal itself. And so basically what they decided to do was basically follow all those rules plus some. And so basically I get tested 3 times a week, the nasal swab.
And do your results come back quickly? Because we got tested after a shoot and it came back 14 days after we got tested. We were tested negative, but it's literally pointless.
Yeah. Well, so here, the test results come back pretty quickly. They have a whole team of doctors that literally they have hired, and their only job is to work on the show.
Yeah.
We're all temperature checked every day before work. Like, we're probably the safest thing happening in the UK right now, if not the world. It might be the safest place in the world.
Yeah, this sounds like TSA on steroids, right? And then I only assume you guys then go back to your hotel, whatever, and lock yourself up. Like, what's that like? Yeah.
It's actually it's been a good experience and a hard experience, right?
Yeah.
But so I'm basically in a bubble with the main cast and some of the producers and the director and stuff, and we're staying at this hotel that's not too far from. I probably shouldn't be giving that information away.
Fair.
Yeah,
But,
no, yeah.
but we're staying at a hotel. We're staying at a hotel. It's a nice hotel, and basically, we are there until we're working, and then we come back from working and we go right there, and it's nice because we've all bonded together.
Yeah.
We go out, we have dinner out on the little veranda.
Yeah.
It's a very snooty kind of hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They have a veranda.
I love it.
And it's been nice to just get to know people and kind of connect with people more intimately than I have on any other production. So in that regard, it's very nice.
Yeah.
It's like a really it's like an upscale version of summer camp, right?
Yeah, it really is.
That's amazing. Yeah, because I mean, like, I think it's interesting just like looking at headlines and so many different industries, and obviously Hollywood. It's like, how do you put people together when we're trying to stay apart and all that stuff? That's really interesting. I think, like, Chris, looking back, even starting this podcast and just thinking about all these random characters we've gotten to know or had met over the years, you came to mind, and I think we met about just over 6 years ago. And it was on a film set in Chicago, which is where Cody and I are from. Looking back, we actually weren't supposed to be on that film set. And there's kind of this really random story to us getting there that I'm not even sure if you know. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of share that. It all started with, so the YouTuber Devin Supertramp, who we know you've done a lot of work with. And for the people at home who don't know him, this big adventure filmmaker who's done all these viral videos with world's biggest rope swing, or let's say Assassin's Creed in real life. Anyway, this guy, especially starting out in our career, he was our hero. And it's not every day that Devin is in your own town. He's typically in Dubai or in Paris, whatever. And here he's coming to Chicago. World traveler. Yeah, he too doesn't have the average day job. And so anyways, he ends up posting, I think, on Instagram, here's this casting call for, it was super secret. We don't know what it is, but it's going to be in Chicago. Here's the times it's going to be at. It's going to be 9 o'clock to 2 a.m. And then we're going to pause and then continue these nocturnal shooting schedules, of course. So anyways, of course, we fill out this casting call, but the problem was the day the shooting day came and we hadn't heard back. And of course, we're just like, he's so close yet so far away. So at some point in the day, we kind of decide, let's just pull the trigger. Let's get a few friends together, load up their Jeep, and let's literally just drive downtown and basically stalk this guy. Like, we're not going to.
Yeah, this is, see, I feel like Chris is the kind of guy that probably has some of these stories as well.
Yeah, I do. I have some of those.
This is like classic, like 2014's social media prime, like searching hashtags, like, where's this guy going to pop up? And then I think like we're literally, hunting through Instagram, searching the hashtags that are maybe associated with this shoot. And some fan had posted a photo. And again, this is not like a photo at the McDonald's on the corner of this and this. This was like a photo where if you screenshot it and you zoom in, you see the little, it's a sign that looks like this, and we're like, is that building?
Yeah, it's like a selfie in front of some random cafe, and we're like, and again, granted, we're on the highway, we're probably at least halfway there with no direction yet, but we're like, this bistro, that's where we're headed. And then so sure enough, we show up like, Cody, I don't know, it's probably 9-10 o'clock, right?
Totally, it's late, yeah.
And I mean, at this point, it's kind of like, half the group, they're still in the Jeep. Maybe send a person or two out to do a little recon mission. And is this going on? Can you just like walk up? Like, what's the deal? And sure enough, yeah, Devin and Parker and the team, they're wrapping up this scene in this like restaurant or this bar. And it's kind of like slowly you start kind of inching forward. It's like, Cody and I, we had met these guys maybe a year or two before on some Mountain Dew video in like Ohio.
But they didn't really know us.
No, they didn't know us.
Didn't want us there, to be honest.
But here we are. And sure enough, like, to cut to the chase, I mean, we end up like, sure enough, we start talking to these guys and they're really cool. And, before you know it, Devin's giving you his $50,000 camera to carry. And he's like, hey, try this out. Like, check out this new lens. And anyway, the night goes by and here we are. We're just hanging out on set. And he's like, do you guys, we need some more extras. Do you guys have a car? Well, here we're doing this this cop, chase scene where the bad guys are on the loose or whatever. Yeah, we could use your Jeep if you're down. And so here we are. I forget the particular street, but it's this street in Chicago blocked off through the night that they shot, I think, some scenes from The Dark Knight on. Like, I think it's like, I mean, you would probably know better than me. So here we are and just kind of like hanging with, talking with these people. And sure enough, here's this tall guy who's dressed up and he's got the leather on, and is this guy who's doing the stunts. And that's where we met you.
Yeah.
And there begins the story.
And there begins the story.
So you were on that set doing, I mean, you were doing all the stunts. Like at the time we meet this guy and you're like, yeah, I'm jumping off these. Oh, I think it was, and I watched your stunt demo reel and I saw this exact scene where you like cleared this huge gap from building to building.
Yeah.
That, and high up, we're talking high up, like don't mess this up, or like family's getting bad calls kind of thing. Do you remember that exact stunt?
Yeah, I do. That was a good time in Chicago. I love Chicago, and I remember that gap fondly.
Yeah. By the way, so this was it was with Ubisoft, right? For the Watch Dogs video game, and you were, I don't know, the watchdog. You were the bad guy. Is that how that worked?
Yeah, so I was Aiden Pierce, right, from Watch Dogs. He was like the original guy from Watch Dogs, and at the time it was interesting too because I had done Sam Fisher for Ubisoft, like another Ubisoft video. I had done that one.
Is that like an Assassin's Creed video? Is that Splinter Cell, that first one?
Yeah, Splinter Cell. Okay,
I'm not like much of a gamer, but I recognize that name.
Yeah, and working with Devin, I mean, he really gave me my start in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, I owe Devin so freaking much. Him and his team are the nicest bunch of people and just so much fun to work with. Like, still to this day, best team ever. Like, if I had a chance to work with them again, I would take it in a heartbeat all the time.
Wow. That's awesome. So you're on this set doing stunts. And I think the obvious question is kind of like, well, how do you get into being a stunt person? Like, as a child, were you climbing on things? Do you remember as a kid? I feel like a lot of times people that really grow up into a passion zone that they love have these early childhood memories of like, hey, when I was, I really loved doing this. And then if you can turn that into your actual career, like, how awesome is that? Do you have those kinds of memories on that journey?
Oh yeah, I mean, like even some of my earliest memories, being in kindergarten, like I loved just being king of the jungle gym, being able to move through it and over it and climb up to the highest point as fast as possible. And then I got into karate when I was kind of in middle school.
Oh, cool.
Dragon Ball Z and Jackie Chan movies influenced me. Like, I need to do karate. So I got into karate, met some of my best friends there. We started making our own fight scenes with like a high-8 camcorder. And, we basically started doing that. And we would practice falls. We would celebrate Jackie Chan's birthday by throwing ourselves off of my friend's deck.
Heck
yeah.
That's an amazing holiday. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I loved it from very young age, and I'm just very lucky to be able to do it now as a job.
So when you were like a kid and you're like, I got to be the king of the hill, what was that like with like your parents or teachers? Were they always like, this kid Chris, because your mom getting calls like he's up in a tree again, or was it cool? Like what was going on there?
I mean, I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody else thought it was cool, right? I mean, parkour like doesn't really make you cool in school. It's not something like, I do parkour and everybody's like, whoa, that guy's so cool. That guy has lots of friends, At least it wasn't back in the day. It was very lame to do parkour, but I didn't know that. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't really think much about it. I'd have to ask my mom, actually. I don't think she got many calls. Well, no, that's not true. I got in trouble a lot. I got some trespassing tickets for like being on the school roof and jumping gaps and doing stuff.
Oh, man. That's intense. See, I feel like I had similar aspirations in life to, jump off things, do all those things. And yet I am definitely not a stunt double or stunt. Like that's not the path I'm on. But I will say, though I wasn't jumping off these buildings and doing these sketchy things, we did go through a phase where it was kind of the cool thing to go urban exploring or urban climbing, as we would say.
Yeah.
Not sure really how much we should be talking about this, but we did find ourselves on, some big public buildings high up, leaning off ledges, school built, probably some things that I wouldn't necessarily want the whole world to know about. That's why we're going to keep it a little bit under wraps here.
Yeah.
But I think you, as a parkour kid, probably would have been my idol back then.
Oh man, we did. I mean, as we got older, we started climbing bigger buildings and stuff. And I think I have at least one cease and desist order from one building in Salt Lake City that we climbed. And my buddy Ronnie, who's also a YouTuber, had filmed it and he put it up on his channel, and that got us in a lot of trouble. But yeah.
Hey, I mean, honestly, how else would you have found yourself in Hollywood doing this stuff? Like, you got, I don't know.
Yeah, at least one cease and desist order is necessary. So did you always live in Utah? Like, did you grow up there as well?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much grew up in Utah, and basically didn't move out of Utah until I got hired on Avengers.
That's amazing.
Infinity War. Yeah.
So clearly overnight success. Like,
yes, clearly overnight
it was like
success.
One day you were just practicing a little, and then Avengers calls.
That's how it happens for most people. You just wish for something, and then it just happens to you. Like, you don't have to do anything. Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Should we just
end it there? That's the moral of the story, right? Just keep sitting, waiting, wishing it'll happen.
All right, so clearly that's not what happened. Talk to us a little bit about what that transition was like. So you're getting in probably more YouTube videos and learning a lot more. You're part of a stunt team.
Yeah, basically my friends and I, we knew we wanted to pursue film, and we basically started out as grips, basically just moving lights around, getting paid nothing. We just wanted the experience, on student films, on like really low budget, no budget things.
Yeah.
And then we kind of realized, like, what we really want to do is stunts. Like, I just want to jump on things. And there was no stunt industry. There was no action movies being filmed in Utah. I mean, I think a lot of it was that they just didn't have those resources. They didn't know any stunt people. They didn't know anybody that could help them with their action or whatever. And so we decided, all right, we're gonna be stunt people now. So we quit doing grip work at all. Like, just didn't take any of those jobs, and we just basically told people, we're stunt people now. And it's kind of that fake it till you make it mentality. And I mean, we had martial arts experience. We'd been training fight choreography, since we were little kids, and training falls and stuff. So we had a fair bit of like our own experience, but not actual professional experience in that realm. So we started again back at zero, student films, low budget, no budget things, and like worked our way up. We were making $100 a day, $150 a day, which was cool, right? And just kind of built up a reputation of being able to do these stunts and add value to productions. And so over time, people basically came to us like, hey, we want to do the shootout scene. What do you guys want to do? And we could go into the space and basically design it however we wanted. Like, cool. Oh man, I want to fall off that thing over there. And they'd be like, sweet. I want to fall down those stairs. I want to get shot and, go flying that way into this wall and shatter this glass. We're like, yeah, cool. And so basically we could come up with whatever we wanted. And in that way we were able to build up a really good reel, like stunt reel.
Yeah.
And at this point, like, I just didn't think that it was going to be a viable option for me long term. I thought at some point I'm going to have to settle down, get a real job, and just hate the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I was going to school at the same time. I had another job, and so I just kind of, this is going to be fun while it lasts.
Yeah.
And then my buddy, he got a job. He got hired to go to New York and work on the first season of Iron Fist.
Oh, cool.
And that was kind of like a big moment for me. I mean, I guess we are marketable somewhere else. Like, we didn't know anybody in the real industry.
Yeah.
Like, we knew a lot of people in like the local Utah filmmaking industry. They were making stuff for like foreign markets or whatever, but nobody that like actually worked in Hollywood, right?
Right.
And so once my buddy got that, it was kind of like, whoa, we could do this. And then also during this time, like I had gotten married. I was living in my parents' basement. I was going to school. We were surviving off of like $1,600 a month.
Yeah.
And basically I knew that I needed to take the safety net out, and I needed to basically commit to this full time. And so I quit my normal job. So we're basically making zero.
Yeah.
And I would just treat it like my job to get hired on stunts. So I would train 4 hours a day, and then I would come home and I would write emails and I would do my schoolwork or whatever.
Wow.
And my wife got pregnant like right after we were married.
Wow.
And so as she's getting more and more
Pressure's
pregnant, she's
on.
like, yeah, we're living in my parents' basement. She's like, when are you going to get a real job? You know?
Yeah.
Totally.
And at some point, like I just knew that I was going to double Chris Pratt. I had no way to know this. When I tell people this part of the story, like they don't believe it.
But first, a word about our sponsor. This podcast is sponsored by Rode Microphones, the Australian pro audio powerhouse making incredible gear for podcasters, vloggers, filmmakers, musicians, and audio engineers.
But like,
Wow.
I was just praying and praying and praying.
Yeah.
And it was like my anxiety was just ratcheting and ratcheting up. And all of a sudden, like I just had this. I woke up one day with this instant knowledge, like I was going to double Chris Pratt.
Whoa. That's
all right.
insane.
And so then, like from then on, I had no anxiety about it. And
Wow.
my wife was. I didn't tell my wife because I was like,
Yeah.
I was nervous
like,
that
I might
she'd
be
just think I was
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, I might be crazy,
Yeah.
but I don't think I am, but definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was just training. I was going, and she's getting more and more pregnant. And all of a sudden, like one day, I get a call, and there's a guy named Winged English, and he says, "Hi, is this Chris Romrell?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Hi, I'm Winged English. I'm Philip Silvera's assistant on Deadpool 2.
Wow.
And we saw your reel, and we're wondering, you know, we were looking at you as potentially doubling Ryan Reynolds for Deadpool 2. And I was like,
Gee.
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay, I'm listening.
yeah. And so they had me put together some fight stuff that I did with my friends, and I sent it in, and I never heard back. I think there was a change of directors, which also made it so that there was a change of stunt coordinator. So I never heard back from them, but it was kind of like a sign, like, okay, I'm going in the right direction.
Someone is seeing what you're doing. You're putting this out, and someone's picking it up.
Right. So apparently my stunt reel had been making some rounds, and I think it's for me, I'm very lucky because I'm a 6'3" dude. I'm 230 now, and I can do flips. And so that's something of a rarity. And so my reel got shared around, and people were like, oh, we can use them for this and this and this.
Do you have any practical life advice on that for anybody who really wants to be 6'3", but they're just not quite there yet?
Have you done the stretching table?
Do your stretches. Yeah. When I was younger, I tried. I would stretch myself out on the bed, like hold the headboard, and then try to like pull my legs as far down as possible.
See, this probably works. This is probably very practical information.
I mean, I also ate like a dump truck, so or just whatever was there, I'd shovel it in. So, I mean, that probably helped. But yeah, and then let's see here. Oh, I got a screenshot from a friend, and it was for a Facebook group that I couldn't join. There's basically you needed 25 recommendations from like known stunt people in the industry to be able to get to be a part of this group. And I wasn't a part of this group, but my friend somehow found the screenshot, and it was a lady named Monique Ganderton. She was looking for a 6'3" stunt person who could do Hong Kong style fight choreography. And I was like, hey,
back to the Jackie Chan days.
Yeah. Like, been celebrating his holiday for how many years? Like, let's do it.
Yeah. So I had like 5 minutes to submit an email, and I put together an email. I put my reel in there. I sent it off, and I wasn't expecting much back. And then I got an email back from her, like I think within a week.
And she said, hey, your stuff looks great. You just look too young for what we're doing right now. But stay in touch. We might be able to use you for the next one. And so I was like, oh, that's an actual reply. Like usually when they blow you off, they don't reply.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to keep in touch. So I would send them videos, every so often. Sometimes I'd get replies, sometimes not. And then she started emailing me back, like with very specific questions, like, hey, do you have any videos of you doing this kind of fight choreography? And so I would call my friends, like, guys, meet today and let's do this kind of fight.
Yeah, I have exactly that. Funny you ask.
Yeah. And then I would send it in like the next day. And then she's like, hey, do you have any videos of you doing like this kind of wire work? And so I would call my friends again, like, whoa, guys, let's get together. And like midnight, we'd go to a gym and do some wire work, and I'd send it the next day. And then she sent me an email and she said, hey, can you make it to a fitting at 12 o'clock tomorrow? And she sent me the address, and it was in LA, and I never told them up to this point that I was in Utah. I just no hiccups. I didn't want to I didn't want any reason for them.
Of course
to
I live in LA.
Yeah. So I would just be like, yeah, I can be there tomorrow at noon. And keep in mind, I'm super poor at this time. I have like a 1993 Isuzu Rodeo that's like,
oh my gosh,
barely running.
Yeah.
And so I convinced my mom to let me use her car, and I drive all through the night to get there. I sleep on my friend's couch for 2 hours, and in the morning, I head to the address, and it's this nondescript warehouse.
Yeah.
And they have like 3 different layers of security. There's like a big gate that like they have to buzz me in. I get there, I get to the front door, I have to look at the camera, I have to state my name and my business.
Oh my god.
And then they let me in, and when I get in there, all of a sudden I see all the Marvel stuff all over the walls. Like pictures of costumes and things, and like somebody leads me back into the back. Wow. And
did you sign anything before going into this?
No.
So you're just you're in. You're this like
this is literally just
Chris
a tryout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so they lead me into the back, and they start putting me in the Star-Lord stuff. And like this is Chris Pratt's actual movie stuff from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So probably has his scent all over it. You're like, oh.
Yeah, I was like,
oh yeah.
Whoa,
Pratt.
But
exactly what I thought.
Perfectly. Yeah, it fit perfectly. And like all the costume ladies were like, oh my gosh, it fits perfectly. You don't have to do any alterations or anything. I was like, oh my that's a good sign. And so that was the first time I learned that I wouldn't like that they were considering me to double Star-Lord on Avengers.
Gee.
And like I was just on a high that whole week, and I got an actual call from Monique this time. And she said, hey, can you be out here January 3rd? I still remember the date. Can you be out here January 3rd to start work on Avengers Infinity War? And I was like, yes.
Wow.
And so that's when I moved to Atlanta.
Wow.
And nobody ever told me, it's kind of a side note, nobody ever told me how long I was going to be in Atlanta. And I thought Star-Lord was kind of a piece of a puzzle here. So I'd be in and out, maybe a couple days here, a couple days there.
Yeah.
But I ended up staying on a whole year. So I became part of the core team where like I worked 5 days a week for a complete year straight on Avengers Infinity War.
What year was this that you moved out?
2017. And then we did reshoots in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Monique is like Monique Ganderton was the assistant stunt coordinator on Infinity War. She was the stunt coordinator on Endgame. Her and Sam Hargrave both I owe so much to. They took a big chance on me, taking me out from Utah just completely untested and putting me on one of the best fight teams I've ever seen assembled anywhere.
Wow.
So it was a really cool experience.
And this, I mean, back up, we're hearing this starts by one, you putting out content, you and your friends investing in like showing what you can do. You have this interest. 2, you defined a job, calling yourselves stunt guys that wasn't defined back then. 3, like you get this initial email and you keep pinging this lady and getting your foot in the door. So I think like Tyler and I, we see that a lot. Like even for us, a couple years ago, we started putting the title on things of like, we're adventure filmmakers. Cause like we had this big interest in like, we want to be pulled more in the adventure space and doing that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many jobs we've gotten in the adventure space because of that. Like we defined that.
Sure.
We're like, that's exactly what we're doing. So people picked up on that. And then you getting your foot in the door with communications with the right people, like that is huge. So pursuing the right connections is something that you never know. Even if you don't hear back at first, keep reaching out, be that squeaky wheel. And we've seen that pay off so many times as well, that it's like, hey, once someone responds, even though it's like a no at first, that they're talking to you, which means next time you do have something more engaging or the right fit, it's like they're already in a communication and you're not just that random person. So that was so cool to see how those things added up. And then you find yourself in the Star-Lord, costume. And that day must have just been unreal for you.
It was so great. And I think you're right. Like, I mean, it really is. It's just, I mean, we had developed the skills for years. We went out and we looked for opportunities, made opportunities to do it on a low end, and just kept at it. And I think that, people will believe what you say until you prove them wrong, So we said, we're stunt people, and we kept getting stunt work because we could back it up. Right.
Yeah.
But the first people that started hiring us, like, they had no idea.
Right.
We just said, we're stunt people. And like, sure. Want to go fall down over there, And that got us in the door. And then being able to back it up and have a good reputation of working with people and delivering quality stuff, really got us rolling and got us a lot of word of mouth and a lot of opportunities that we wouldn't have had.
So fake it till you make it. Like, that seems to work if and only your work ethic matches your ambition, right? It's like you can talk this big game, but
100%.
You were the guys out there. They would say this, you'd go out in your backyard or to the city, film it, boom, you're doing it. Like Richard Branson has this quote, something along the lines. It's like, if someone offers you an amazing opportunity and you're not sure you can do it, say yes, figure out how to do it later, right? I think a lot of people, maybe it's like, well, no, that's not on my resume currently, but I think it's cool hearing that ambition and great. Like, I got goosebumps when I heard that you actually, like, you had prayed and you like envisioned, like, I'm going to be Chris Pratt's stunt double. Like, I had never heard that. That's amazing. And I'm even curious, taking this story a little further. So you had moved to Atlanta, and so here we are, day one, set on Infinity War. This is happening. Like, do you remember what that was like for you to actually walk into this place? And like, did it sink in? Did it not even feel like real life? What was that like?
I mean, it's just humbling, right? Because everybody on the team was somebody that I had been following for years on social media. These are people that I looked up to. Yeah. Like, absolutely amazing stunt performers, just total, just amazing performers. And so when I walked in, it was almost like imposter syndrome, right? Yeah. Like, so I don't belong here, right? Yeah. But I think that was good for me because it kept me very humble, like throughout the whole process. Like, I was just grateful to be there every day that I got to be there, and get to work with all these amazing people that could just teach me so much. I think that if I came in and I had this feeling like, oh yeah, I'm as good as you guys, I might not have learned as much. I might not have gained as much experience. I might not have been able to capitalize on that experience as well as I did.
So do you think that? Oh, sorry, Cody, go for it.
I was going to say, I like that perspective of humility, of just that. I mean, I find the same thing is like, that's the biggest opportunity for growth is when you put yourself, it's like, we're not owed anything. We don't, even as hard as we've all worked maybe for something, like, it's not, we can't be entitled about it. And I love even hearing that from you. And you've had some incredible success and some of these incredible opportunities. And because your work ethic has matched that, and because you've kept a humble attitude towards it, these people keep welcoming you back and want you a part of the team, because it's probably a very enjoyable experience.
I feel like that's a large part of my success in being able to work as much as I do. is just being able to, I don't know, just fit in with people and help and not have an ego about it. Because I just feel like there's so many people that would want this job. There's so many people that want to work in the entertainment industry. And to get an ego or to be an a-hole about it, like to develop some bad habits or something, like there's any number of people could step in and probably do a better job than you. Like you have such an opportunity, like don't lose it.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel every time I'm on a show.
That's cool. And like, so when you think about your journey there and all these years of working with, like, let's say YouTubers like Devin Supertramp and local Utah filmmakers, and you really learn this real, like, all these skills, like being adaptable, of being just like really nimble, run and gun, like things are always going wrong. You guys are always figuring it out. How much of that do you think came with you to now, like these major sets? Like, is that the big lesson? Is that the big thing you think?
All of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there's so many, I mean, everything. Okay. Giant movies are just YouTube videos with a lot more money.
Yeah.
Huh.
They have a lot more money to spend, so they have a lot more crew members to get involved with different aspects, you know, like the guy that runs the camera isn't the dude that changes the lenses.
Yeah.
You know, like
Go figure.
He's not paid enough. Right? Yeah, exactly.
So they have more expensive script. They have more expensive, you know, lighting. They have more expensive costumes and actors and things. But it's essentially the same. It's all the same process. And I brought all that stuff with me because I've been able to shoot and edit and direct and understand camera angles and understand kind of the limitations of filming and all that stuff. And that helps you so much to be able to talk to different departments as a stunt person, to be able to solve problems before they even come up. You know, like, to know, like when you're shooting a fight previs, you know, it's the viz that you're going to show the director. Like there's certain camera angles, certain things that you can't do because, you know, on the day they're going to be shooting it on a techno crane, or they're going to be, they can only show this part of the set. They don't want to show this part, or that the actor, you know, like there's so many benefits of being able to know every department. And I don't think that you can know every department on a big set. Like if you started on big sets, you would never get to that experience. So starting on small sets, I think, is an insane asset to have. It's just absolutely vital if you want to, I don't know, excel, I should say.
Yeah. What's been the most surprising thing making that transition into, you know, sets as big as they get? What has been that most surprising thing to you that you weren't expecting?
The most surprising thing is the money is better, but
I love it.
It's not as fun.
Oh,
interesting.
Huh. It's like when you're like,
you're boxed off, everyone's siloed, and it's not as collaborative, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I still love the job.
Yeah.
And, I mean, my secret is that I would do it for free no matter what. So the fact that I get paid is just a bonus, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't do it for free. I got a family now.
Yeah, exactly.
On like YouTube videos and just smaller budget things, like you get to wear so many more hats. You get to be more part of the process. It's more collaborative. It's more intimate. Like you're just out there with your friends making something, you know, and you feel more attached to the end result, you know, whereas when Endgame came out, like I enjoyed it, you know, but I was just a small piece of a much larger puzzle. Whereas like, you know, one of Devin's videos comes out that I got to help on or something, I feel much more pride in that. I'm like, yeah, I was.
Right. You may have made that suggestion.
We made this,
and so we did this instead of that, or you can kind of see your own like skin in that game. And that's interesting because that's such a funny pattern we see with people who, whatever game they're playing at the top level versus their path to that level. It's like, there's this really unique thing that happens when your back is against the wall, when it's like, we don't even have a permit to film here. Let's see what happens. Yeah. And so that's part of the game. And because of that, the creativity that comes, and you end up with this thing that's like it's an extension of you. Now, speaking of like being an extension of you, and this is just something that's so unique to, well, quite frankly, only you in the world right now, but you and Chris Pratt have this really unique relationship by nature, right? There's no one else in the world who at this moment is basically this like clone of him, right? So it's weird, right? Like, so I'm kind of curious, like, what's it been like getting to know him and then even like embodying him, right? Is there like something mentally you do for Chris Romrell to become Chris Pratt? What is that like?
It's actually pretty, it's pretty uncanny. I mean, I wish that I could see a third person version of it so I can see what other people are seeing, but I get comments constantly about how much alike we are.
Wow.
Like, voice, mannerisms, just everything. Like, people will come up to me and they'll be like, "Oh, Chris," and then they'll turn around, they'll look me in the face like, sorry, wrong Chris. It happens all the time. They'll do it to him
That
too.
is so funny.
Yeah.
Like, on our last movie, I became good friends with the construction manager
Yeah.
for the guy building sets, and I talked to him many times, always out of costume usually, but this one time I was in costume, and he comes up to me, and he looks at me straight in the face, and he's like, your stunt double, he taught my son how to do a flip the other day at the gymnastics gym. I thought that was pretty cool of him. And I'm like looking at him in the face. I'm like, and he's like sitting there talking to me. And I'm like, dude, I'm Chris Romrell. And he's like, oh, dude, whoa, I thought you were the other Chris. Like,
That
I
is
know
so
this
awkward.
guy.
I love it.
You
And your names
so,
are Chris.
Right, you're both Chris.
Like, how does that
Chris.
happen?
I think you should have like kept playing it up. Like, yeah, in fact, that guy sounds so good. How much are they paying him? Is that promotion going to happen? Like,
Is there another instance of like when someone walks up and is like, yo, Chris Pratt, like this and that? Have you ever gone along with it?
No, I mean, because usually by the time they've already gotten it out, they've kind of seen me. Like, I don't have the same swagger that he does. You know?
Yeah. You gotta keep working on it.
I got this goofy face, and he's got complete, A-list movie action star going on. So they just feel the sparkle. There's less sparkle there.
Less sparkle. Gotta keep working on that sparkle.
Something that's so fascinating. I mean, what that is just so interesting, and it's funny. I love how you talk about. So you came from these very humble beginnings. You're wearing all the hats. You're editing. You're even directing, or you probably know how the cameras work. All this stuff, and then because you're doing that, you have this unique advantage of if you kind of thinking through how the editor is going to use this, you might go into your role a little differently because you're thinking through their perspective. Now, an interesting perspective is that of, I don't know, like a stunt coordinator, a stunt double, all these things. And something I want to hear specifically about is a relationship you've had for years, like going through the Avengers movies and then to this day. Can you tell us a bit about your relationship with Sam Hargrave over the years? And, even more recently, I know you got to work with him on the Netflix movie he directed, Extraction. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I am a big fan of Sam, both as a stunt performer. I'm a fan of his as a stunt coordinator and as a director. Like, I never got to work with him when he was a stunt performer, but even to this day, like he's willing to throw down, and he is an incredible performer. So, I mean, already having that respect from him, I'd never met him in that regard, but when I came on to Avengers, he was the stunt coordinator, and I thought that he handled things just so well. From the way that he talked to the different departments and the way that he managed the team and the way that he just trusted the people that he put in place. Like, he had a fight coordinator, two fight coordinators on the show, and like, basically he would just trust us implicitly. Like, he basically had faith in who he hired. And I just thought that the way he handled things was amazing. And then to be hired on for Extraction was also just really cool to see him in his directorial debut, because we had become friends on Avengers, and to just be able to see him kind of use his talents in a director's chair was really cool. To see him like direct and handle a movie, and it just seemed like if he was under stress, I never saw it.
Wow.
Like this is his first movie, has Chris Hemsworth, bigger budget, lots of pressure, and if he was feeling the pressure, I never saw it. He just handled everything so gracefully.
Gee.
So big fan.
So stunt coordinator, stunt performer turned director, how does somebody like this direct? Like, what are some things that of everybody you've worked with? I'm curious what that perspective is like now as a director. What do you see him doing that you don't see any other directors doing?
So the same thing that Chad Stahelski and Dave Leitch are doing. Chad Stahelski, he did John Wick, right? Him and Dave Leitch both did John Wick. Dave Leitch did Deadpool 2. He did the Hobbs and Shaw, the Fast Furious spinoff. Basically, these guys, they have gone their whole careers basically focused on action. And one thing that Chad and Dave and Sam all have in common is they came from a stunt group called 8711, which basically pioneered a different way of doing things for action for movies, and basically made it standard almost in the industry for stunt teams to film a previs of a fight. So basically a mock-up of how the fight would look, complete with camera angles and the editing of those angles and
gotcha. Interesting.
Crude sound effects and all that. And so they have such a keen understanding of the dialogue of action on screen that I think it's so much easier for them to put together an action sequence.
Right.
You see a lot of filmmakers, they want to do a fight scene the traditional way. They want to do a master shot, they want to do the overs, and then they want to get coverage. And it's absolutely the worst possible way to shoot an action scene. 100%, hands down, the worst. Because a master shot, like, unless your choreography is really simple, which it just is not nowadays.
Yeah.
You're going to either wear your actors out or your stunt performers out. They're going to get sloppy. Things are going to get messy, and you're never going to use that whole shot anyway. So why do it? If you're planning on cutting, go to the cuts. And then you get the overs. And if you give an editor that doesn't have experience making fight scenes, putting together good fight scenes, especially like kind of a Hong Kong style action fight scene together, if you give him that much coverage, he's going to use it all. And it's going to get choppy and going to suffer. So basically a lot of what you see now in modern action movies is you shoot to edit. You shoot for the edit. So in the previs, it's a blueprint. It's a blueprint to give the director of this is how the fight is done, and the camera is choreographed with the action. So are the edit points. So you give that to a director, and the director can expand on it. The director can change it completely. It's really up to them, but it's basically a mock-up, a blueprint of what the stunt team feels like would be the best use of that action. And so Sam Hargrave, he knows that intuitively.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
well, I remember watching
when
when Extraction came out, I had it on my calendar. I was like, gotta watch Chris's new performance here. And it was intense. You guys had some just crazy fight scenes. And for anyone that hasn't seen it, definitely check it out. It's still on Netflix, right? I'm sure
it's still on Netflix. And I give credit for the fight scenes. Sam was the director. He's, ultimately responsible, but Michael Lair was our fight coordinator.
Cool.
And absolutely amazing working with him. And he had such a cool vision and way of thinking about things and way of putting things together. So he was the one basically shooting the previs to give to Sam.
Cool.
And Sam, has enough experience, to know what he likes, what he doesn't like. So we would change things according to what Sam wanted. But once we got to it, that's what we stuck with on the day. And that's why the action looks different than most action.
It is definitely different. Yeah.
Today.
Yeah. It really pulls you in. You definitely can see that experience coming out and seeing that difference. Chris, so pulling out a little bit from the Hollywood film scene, you've actually been on American Ninja Warrior, and can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so I was I did American Ninja Warrior 2013, 2014, 2015. I did best on 2013,
Cool.
and getting on for that my first season there was one of those life experiences that really showed me that I could do more, that more was possible. Basically, I'd set the goal like I'm going to get on American Ninja Warrior, and I started training, and I had no idea if I was, but like I basically I trained every day. I worked out for 2-3 hours every day. And I submitted, my my audition thing, and I ended up getting it, and that really showed me, like, because I didn't know anybody in my town that had ever done anything like that.
Yeah.
And so it kind of showed me, like, yeah, I can do stuff if I just put my mind to it.
Wow.
And I finished in I think I was 8th that season. Like I got 8th farthest. I don't know.
Yeah.
I went to finals in Vegas or whatever. The next year I didn't train very hard, and the year after that, I fell on like the second obstacle.
Oh man.
But my heart really wasn't in it at those times. It was more
interesting.
to stunts.
Yeah. But that's just such a cool part of your journey. And I mean, to see, because certainly, someone that does stunts is, I mean, American Ninja Warrior is like a prime opportunity to really show that and really have some cool obstacles to get through, and climbing and all of that just kind of comes together in a pretty cool way on television for people to probably get people into that world of seeing like someone that's really talented at stunts. Like what can they do?
Yeah. Jessie Graff is she's a stunt woman, and she crushes it on American Ninja Warrior.
Wow. Well, so Chris, as we start to kind of wrap up here, one of the things we just wanted to get into is with Cody and I, we're filmmakers, we're the Outbound Life, and this is about content creation, but beyond that, it's about a philosophy. It's about a way that we personally try to live our lives by. And one of those core principles is live beyond your limits. We see it doesn't matter who you are or where you are in life right now, there's these obstacles that we're always trying to push beyond, and as we're growing into who we have the potential to become. So I want to ask you, and this can be something, a physical obstacle, and it might very well be you do stunt work and you're jumping out windows. But what's a large obstacle that you've had to face, let's say in the last year?
In the last year, big obstacle. I think for me, right now, at this point in my life, is just finding balance. Balance between my professional life and my family life. If I can travel a lot for this job, and it can be pretty taxing. Even when I'm home, I can be working 12, 14, 15-hour days. So finding balance has been my challenge this year, and I think that I'm getting to a better place there.
Yeah.
Well, it's such a different lifestyle than, what most would think of, or probably what you grew up seeing your parents do or even friends do. And to find balance in that is you're creating it yourself. And now you're meeting new people that do a same profession as you, and probably learning from them to see what, to you, family's important, and balancing that out is extremely important.
Well, something even on that I want to touch on, and actually it's funny how it kind of ties back into this story, but I remember, whenever that was 6 years ago when we were on that Chicago set, probably 2 a.m., and we're talking to, Chris, you, and different people on that set. I remember we had talked to somebody named Parker Walbeck, and at that time was really on board with Devin and growing that channel, but he really laid it out straight to us as far as, these were people at the time living the dream, right? Traveling the world, doing these commercials for all these people, doing, they did a Super Bowl commercial. They're doing the coolest stuff you could imagine. And yet Parker's like, guys, I want you to, chase your dreams, and this is big, but I also want you to understand the cost of this, guys, I'm going off of 3 hours of sleep. It's 2 a.m. I'm going to wake up early, get on a plane, get my laptop out, start editing. I'm barely home. I haven't seen my family. I can't date right now. Like he listed out, the big picture of, like, I think oftentimes we see that tip of the iceberg. So it is, it's good to, if you're going to go some crazy away and chase your dreams. It's like, everything has a cost.
You know, I think that's a normal concern no matter what your job is, you know?
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be things that, like for me, if I had a desk job, I might be home more with my family, but I would also be less pleasant as a person, I think. I just wouldn't be happy.
Yeah.
So there's costs to everything.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And Chris, just thank you for being open and jumping on here. It's definitely exciting for me to learn more about your story and hear some of these fun, just intricacies to your story and the path that you took. I mean, no one's path is ever the same. To get to something like this where you are in life, there's no
linear
organized,
way there.
no linear way to just pursue that.
Yeah.
And yet you had the work ethic, you had the drive, you had the talent also to match it, and you're having breakthrough. And we're super just thrilled to continue to watch you and hope you have the best success and keep pushing and don't kill yourself. And beyond that, how can people follow along this journey and keep up with all the movies that you're in?
I think my Instagram is probably the thing I keep up with most. It's just Chris.Romrell. And that's it. That's me.
Perfect. Cool. Well, people definitely make sure to check out Chris's Instagram. You'll find some really cool stuff on there, and you can keep up with him as he goes through more production and some of these movies do come out. Also check out Extraction. It was awesome on Netflix.
Amazing.
Beyond that, Chris, thanks so much for your time, man.
Thanks a ton.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Cool.
A few closing thoughts, guys. First, we're so grateful you took the time to listen today. It really means a lot to us to be able to share our journey with you. Second, if you got any value or inspiration from this episode, please take a minute to leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. Lastly, remember, your story matters. So go for it today and live the outbound life.